A body is just cargo. Or at least, that's what I believed until a rainy Tuesday night in 2024. It was about 1:30 a.m. I was assigned a solo transport, moving a 60-year-old male from a local hospice to the county morgue. The fog on Highway 101 was so thick, it felt like driving through a wet gray wall. In the back, the body was zipped into a standard heavy-duty black vinyl bag on the gurney. About 20 minutes into the drive, I heard a sharp, metallic click. Zip. I glanced in the rearview mirror. In the dim amber glow of the cabin, I saw the silver tab of the body bag had moved, maybe 2 inches. I let out a heavy breath, blaming the potholes and the stiff suspension of the old ambulance. "Just the vibrations, Mark," I whispered. "Just the road." 5 minutes later, I heard it again, but this time it was slow, deliberate. Zeep. I looked back. The bag was open halfway now. I could see the pale, waxy shoulder of the deceased peeking out. My heart hammered against my ribs. I pulled over to the muddy shoulder, shifted into park, and walked into the back. I zipped it shut, double-checking the lock. It felt cold, not just dead cold, but a freezing, unnatural chill that seemed to vibrate off the vinyl. I got back in the driver's seat, wiped the cold sweat from my palms, and kept going. Suddenly, a heavy silence swallowed the ambulance. You know that silence where the engine sounds like it's miles away? I felt the vehicle grow heavy, as if I was suddenly towing a ton of lead. I looked in the mirror again, and my blood turned to ice. The bag was wide open. The body wasn't laying flat anymore. It was propped up on its elbows, head tilted at a sickening, broken angle, staring directly at the back of my head. I slammed on the brakes. My lungs felt like they were collapsing. I scrambled for the door handle, screaming, desperate to get out into the rain, but the lock wouldn't budge. It was jammed. I hammered on the glass, sobbing, and then, terrified, I slowly turned my head to look back into the cabin. The body was laying flat, zipped up, perfectly still. I sat there for a long time, gasping for air. "Sleep deprivation," I told myself. "You're hallucinating." I forced myself to put the car in gear. I just wanted to be done. I checked the mirror one more time to settle my nerves. The bag was shut. Everything was normal. I felt a wave of relief so strong I almost laughed. I accelerated, trying to make up for lost time. I was doing about 60 when my headlights hit something on the road. It was too late to swerve. It was a man, lying face down in the middle of the asphalt, wearing the exact same hospital gown as the body in my back seat. Thump, thump. The tires went right over him. I screamed, fishtailing the ambulance before coming to a dead stop 50 yards ahead. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. I looked in the side mirrors. The road behind me was empty. No body, no blood, nothing but wet pavement and fog. I turned around to look into the back of the ambulance, praying it was a nightmare. The bag was zipped shut, but it wasn't black anymore. A dark, rhythmic crimson was soaking through the vinyl from the inside out. The bag was saturating with fresh, hot blood, dripping onto the floorboards in a steady drip, drip, drip. I didn't call it in. I didn't stop. I drove straight to the morgue in a trance. When the attendants opened the bag was bone dry. The body was cold. They looked at me like I was insane. I quit the next morning. I don't drive at night anymore. I don't even like being in cars because I know that whatever I ran over in that road, it didn't stay under my tires. It got back in. And when I got home and took off my uniform, I found a single wet, bloody handprint on the back of my white shirt, right between my shoulder blades.
My name is Jake. I've been driving an ambulance in Cleveland for 8 years. What I'm about to tell you, it sounds like a fever dream. It sounds like I've lost my mind. But my partner, Tom, hasn't spoken a word to anyone since that night. He just quit, packed his bags, and disappeared. It was a foggy Tuesday in 2022. We got a Code 3 call, an emergency. An elderly woman sounded frantic on the radio, claiming her husband was having a massive heart attack. The location was an old farmhouse on the outskirts of the city. As we drove, the GPS began routing us down a narrow dirt road I had never seen before. A mile in, the fog became so thick it felt like driving through a wall of cold gray smoke. Suddenly, the GPS signal died. The screen went a haunting shade of blue, and the speakers started emitting this rhythmic, heavy breathing sound. We thought we had taken a wrong turn, but then the fog parted and a town appeared. It was wrong. All the houses looked like they were trapped in the 1950s. The streetlights weren't yellow, they were a piercing neon blue. But the silence? The silence was terrifying. No crickets, no wind, no distant highway hum, just absolute dead stillness. Then I saw the people. Dozens of them, standing on their lawns, wearing thin white hospital gowns. They weren't moving. They were all facing the same direction. Tom whispered, "Jake, stop the rig. Why are they all looking at us?" I looked out the window. Every single person on that street turned their heads in perfect unison. They didn't have eyes, just hollow, pitch-black pits where their sockets should be. They didn't scream. They just stood there, staring into the soul of our ambulance. Suddenly, the back doors of the ambulance slammed open with a deafening bang. We spun around, but the cabin was empty. Then, right before our eyes, frost started crawling across the floorboards. Within seconds, the temperature inside the rig dropped to sub-zero. I could see my own breath coming out in thick, panicked clouds. That's when the gurney, the empty stretcher in the back, started thrashing. It was slamming against the floor, shaking violently as if an invisible person was dying on it in total agony. A deep, guttural whisper filled my ears. It wasn't a language. It was the sound of a final, rattling breath. I didn't think. I slammed the rig into reverse and floored it. As we sped backwards through the fog, I saw the black-eyed people lining the road. They weren't trying to stop us. They were waving, slowly, methodically, the way a patient waves goodbye from a hospital bed. 10 minutes later, the GPS flickered back to life. We were on the main highway. When we finally reached the address of the farmhouse, the place was a ruin. It had been abandoned for 30 years. There was no elderly woman, no heart attack. When the police checked our dash cam, they found 30 minutes of nothing but white static. No town, no people. But there was one thing they couldn't explain. On the gurney in the back, there was a frostbitten handprint on the sheet. Forensic tests confirmed the DNA belonged to a man who had died in an ambulance crash on that very road back in 1954. Tom and I resigned the next morning, because I know that town is still out there, hidden in the fog. And those people, they're still waiting. They've kept the gurney empty, just for us.